Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews. Today we are going to check out another Jurassic World Rebirth figure, but this is our very first chance to see one of the new Pop Funkos. And yes, we've got one that I'm very excited about, as we have the Carnotaurus. And does this give us a good feel or a good idea for what the Carnotaurus does look like in Rebirth, if in fact there really is one, like the rumors seem to state? I don't know, because again, the Pop Funkos aren't really something that you can normally base like the color schemes or anything off of being screen accurate, but it does look pretty cool. The packaging is pretty much the standard. You've got a shot here on the side, and again the Carnotaurus name over there, and then again another shot here on the back. So let's pop this box open and check out our Pop Funko Carnotaurus. So here is our Carnotaurus now, and man, does the coloration of this one look really cool. So surprised to see like this pinkish tone on the figure, which I was not expecting, but it is so cool to finally have a Pop Funko Carnotaurus. If you have followed my channel for a while, you'll know that Carnotaurus is my all-time favorite dinosaur, so having a Pop Funko version of it now is just like such an awesome feeling. But when you go ahead bring the figure in, you start up here in the head sculpt. You can see the nostrils sculpted out. You can also see some okay looking skin texture, a little variation to the style of skin texture as you have large scales moving along the jawline, a little bit of a different type of scaling as you move back, just some nice creasing there in the eye area, and again different style scales as you move back here to the back of the head. Seems a little bit more highly detailed than I'm used to when it comes to a lot of Pop Funkos. You also have some okay looking skin texture here for the lower jaw. We can see the horns of course sculpted out, and they do feature some kind of like cracks and crevices, which is nice to see. The eyes of course have that kind of possessed look like Pop Funkos usually do with the yellowish tone. I feel like they should start applying pupils to these figures, because it's not really like the biggest difference, but I feel like it would definitely, add another level of appeal to these as a whole. When you head inside the mouth, we can see the tongue sticking up, sculpted pretty decently, not much in the way of texturing, but looks pretty cool. We have the pinkish tone moving through almost the entire inside of the mouth, except for the back where it's a black, kind of giving you that visual of it getting dark the further into the mouth you go. We can see the teeth are all sculpted okay, like they look decent for what they are, painted with a nice off-white tone of color as well, and there is a nice gloss coat for the inside of the mouth, just like there is for the eye, which is nice. Up here on the top of the head, you do have like a very dark purplish sort of a tone that picks up and moves over the center of the head and then begins to lead down into the back of our Carnotaurus. And just like you would hope, we do have those classic Carnotaurus osteoderms moving down along the neck and down through the entire body, which is an awesome touch to the figure. We also again have that pinkish tone that moves over the top of the head and then follows down basically right under the dark purplish tones of color, and then you have like this lighter tan for the remainder of the body color outside of the underside, which does feature a light tone there, kind of like an off-white moving along the underside, and we can even see some okay detail down there on the underside of the figure. As you lead down, we do have an incorrect amount of digits for the hand of the Carnotaurus, which is unfortunate now that I noticed that. The claws are painted here on the figure though, and I think the arms are obviously a little bit long for a Carnotaurus, but considering the Pop Funkos are, exaggerated figures, they don't necessarily have to be accurate as far as the proportions and everything go. I mean, just look at the size of the head. As we continue to move along, though, the detail looks okay, but as you move down into the arms and legs, you can see it does get very washed out and, smoothed over. There's not much in the way of fine detail then, sadly. A few creases in the joint of the knee and stuff, and you can see the same as you move down into the ankle, but they're not really that great as far as the detail goes. The toes also look super weird. They almost look like if you took like Play-Doh and tried to sculpt out dinosaur toes. That sort of is what it looks like to me. The claws are painted though, which is at least nice, but then you move up into the tail and we continue to have a bit of like a washed out look to the skin texture as you move down. Not much in the way of fine detail, but you do have a nice curve to the tail that does lead back around and again faces toward the Carnotaurus pretty much, and you can see we do have those osteoderms moving the entire way down through the tail, and of course that purplish tone, pinkish tone, that tan, and then the light tone does lead the entire way through the tail. And then of course the biggest difference on this side is the fact that it is taking a step forward, but other than that there's not a whole lot of difference when it comes to the sculpt on this side compared to the first side. As far as a size goes, it is your standard Pop Funko size range. For a length, you are looking at about 5¼ inches, or around 13.5 centimeters, and then for a height, just a hair under 4 inches or 10 centimeters. For a size comparison, there is Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Pack Colovosaurus, Robert Muldoon, and the Collect Day human being next to our Pop Funko Carnotaurus. And you can see again, it's exactly in the size range you would expect for a Pop Funko. So no real need to really do more comparisons or anything past this point. If you have purchased any of the older Jurassic World Pop Funkos, you're very much so going to know the size of this one. So this Pop Funko Jurassic World Rebirth Carnotaurus is really cool. You know, again, it does suffer from some of the things that Pop Funkos are well known for, like not having the greatest fine detail in the world or anything, but they're never really meant to. They're basically just kind of really exaggerated, very stylized, and with a very specific style of dinosaur figure as far as these ones go. So again, you know, it pretty much fits the theme as far as how these Pop Funkos have looked since the beginning of them creating Jurassic World figures. It does actually, though, have, I would say, a little bit more detail than some of the others have had in the past, which is nice to see, again, especially when it comes to a little variation to the skin texture in the face. I wish they had painted the horns. That's like the only real thing that I feel like it's missing as far as the paintwork goes. But other than that, they've added some stuff in, like, you know, a gloss coat to the inside of the mouth and eyes, and of course the claws, which is nice to see. And the paint application as a whole is pretty nicely done. Again, not exactly what I would have expected for a Carnotaurus, but works very nicely for the figure and definitely sets it apart from many of the other, you know, Pop Funko Jurassic World figures. No idea if this is the coloration we'll see on the Carno in the film, but it does look pretty cool on the Pop Funko version. So if you are interested in this, I will include a link in the description to where I purchased mine on Target.com. So check that link, grab it if you want it, and like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.